Hey players, I hope everybody is doing well. We're going to look at a film session today. We're going to look at Trae Young again. I already did a video, see if I can put it here somewhere, on Trae Young, where we mostly looked at his scoring, dribbling moves, spacing principles, timing principles, things like that. But in this video, we're going to look at passing, and we're going to look at reads that he makes, and we're going to look at the types of passes that he does as well. Now, one thing, I'm not a flashy trainer or anything like that. I send out an email where I tell coaches, I'll send out my videos and I'll say, you're not going to be learning a double punch drag, half spin, fade away, all that kind of bull crap. The clips that we're going to look at are really, really simple principles that, even though in a game they might be hard to execute, because when we're watching Trae Young, he makes these things look really easy. But the principles, the idea is that the principles of basketball that we go over are so simple that middle school, high school, and college players, and I've coached all levels, middle school, high school, and college, that the principles in this film will help players of almost any age get better in their understanding of basketball, which will help them play better. Nonetheless, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you want to stay tuned for all my videos, and we will get started here with Trae Young. This first possession right here, Trae Young is going to come off of a down screen into a DHO. DHO just means dribble handoff. Dribble hand off. So what happens when he comes off is he gets two defenders on him as he comes off that first handoff, which is good. Anytime as the ball handler you can get two defenders on you, that's a good thing, because that means one of your teammates is open. In this situation right here, he's really got two teammates open. He's got John Collins, and then he has the opposite wing open as well. But something he does here that I think is really effective is he looks off the help defense as he uses a ball fake. So right here, Kyle Korver is having to decide, does he stay? Kyle Korver is the defender right here. Kyle Korver has to decide, is he going to stay on John Collins, or is he going to lift up to the wing and go defend Kevin Huerter? What Trae Young does is he lifts up and he fakes the pass towards Kevin Huerter by looking at him. So when Trae Young looks this way, Kyle Korver, assuming, this is what I'm assuming, Kyle Korver thinks, oh, Trae Young's going to pass to the wing, so I better start going that way. So Trae Young looks off this defender towards the wing and then delivers the pass right to John Collins for an easy dunk. So the tip here would be look off defenders. Don't get too flashy or too fancy, but you can use your eyes to deceive the defender and make them think you're passing it to somebody that you actually aren't passing to. I use this clip for the same thing. Now, usually Trae Young shoots this type of shot right here, so I don't know what he was thinking by it, but this clip is the same exact skill. So he's going to look off the defense and then pass to the corner. So we're looking at Taurean Prince right here. He's almost on the midline. He's in the help position, and as Trae Young attacks, he looks at DeAndre Hunter with his eyes and makes it look as if he's going to deliver this pass right here. His eyes make Taurean Prince believe he's passing to the wing, so Taurean Prince jumps this pass. Meanwhile, Cam Reddish is wide open in the corner and hits the three. So again, these first two clips, we've seen Trae Young use his eyes to fake his pass and deliver it to another teammate. This confuses the defense. All right, so right here, Trae Young, I'm assuming he identifies this switch, so it's a pick and roll. And what happens is, I pick it up kind of late in the possession, but here's the matchup. So you have guard and guard, and then you have big and big right here. So as Trae Young comes off the ball screen, they end up being in a switch. Trae Young identifies that, and he makes the bounce pass to Collins and finishes the bucket. Now, one thing that if you're a guard, if you're watching film from the guard perspective, you're imagining you have the basketball here. If you're a post player watching this, obviously you're imagining you're the post player. One thing that I would suggest players do, the post players especially, is they kind of crack down onto the guard right here, because if the guard would have anticipated this pass right here earlier, the guard could have stolen the ball. But what the post player should have done what John Collins could have done better is to basically box out this offensive player and get his body in front of the defender so that they couldn't get the steal. But either way, they still get the play off and get 2 points. All right, so next play right here is again a switch. So the last clip we looked at was a switch, and then the same thing here. So it's a ball screen. Here's Trae Young's defender. John Collins is the screener. This defender is defending the screener, but as Trae Young comes off the ball screen, you can see right here the defender, when he points his finger, is basically saying, switch, I got ball, something along those lines. And now what Trae Young is going to do, he's going to back up outside the perimeter so that he brings the bigs defender out and away from the paint, and then he just waits for John Collins to dive on the guard, and he ends up getting a dunk. One thing, too, like the last possession, we looked at the post player. Post players, this is a great strategy as well, is just sealing off the guard or whoever, especially if you get a switch, you got to create position. But John Collins right here, he really fights. He uses his backside. He has a wide base. He uses his arms, and he creates absolutely amazing post position right here. And Trae Young gets an assist. But look where he catches it. He catches it. He does not dribble, and he goes straight up. Obviously, not many people are going to 1% of players are going to be able to dunk the ball, if not less. But the principle is that a switch was created. Both John Collins and Trae Young, the guard, identified it. Trae Young backed his dribble out to keep the defense or keep the post defender out of the paint, and the post offensive player dove to the rim and absolutely buried his defender and created position. All right, next clip is very simple. The teaching point in this clip is there's a lot of terms for this, and I'm sure I've stolen this term from 87 coaches. I didn't come up with this term, but throwing your teammate into space. So here's what that means. A lot of guards do not make these kind of passes because, well, I don't really know why exactly, but a lot of guards don't have the vision to make this pass. Maybe they see there's a defender here, defender here, defender here, and a defender here. And, if the offensive player right here, the big man, stayed where he was, well, he's not open. But what Trae Young does is he throws his teammate into space. So even though in this location of the floor is not really open right now, this location is. So throw your teammates into space where there's wide open space and no help, and that's where you can get some scoring opportunities. Now the post player makes a great catch here and a great finish, high degree of difficulty. But guards need to be willing. A lot of guards they're too selfish or too stupid to make this pass. Well, I don't know. Maybe stupid. Maybe they just aren't good enough or have the vision. But make these passes where you throw your teammates into space. All right, so this is a very similar one as well. As this is a similar one to the last clip. It's kind of like throwing into space. It's a pick and roll. Well, it's a double ball screen. So you got a screener here and a screener here. This guy is known as, he's like checking the first roller. This defender is. He's going to check the first roller and then go out and defend the wing. But what Trae Young does is he basically, at this point, he throws his teammate into space. So from the foul line to the baseline, there is no defense down there, and especially on the right side of the rim from our angle. So Trae Young just throws his teammate into space. He makes a great catch. Normally this might be an alley-oop, but throws him into space, and they end up getting a bucket. Now, one other thing, too, is Trae Young has the vision over the defense. A lot of guards, and this is a hard skill. I'm not saying it's easy. A very, very small percentage of guards are able to do this, but most guards might just say, I got 3 defenders in front of me and a 4th defender here, and I can't make that pass. But Trae Young looks over the defense and sees that there's space towards the baseline, and he makes that pass. Okay, so this clip is more of a skill. It's less of reads and decisions, but more of a skill, although although he reads the defense really well here. But the skill here that I wanted to emphasize on this clip is the whole time Trae Young has his eyes up and he's scanning the floor. So from the point right when he gets... All right, he hasn't even really fully caught the outlet pass, and his eyes are already down the floor, and he's already looking up the floor. This is what guards need to do. They need to quit thinking about how can I get by my man first, and how can I make a scoring move in between the legs, all that stuff. Don't think of that first. Instead, in transition, just think, how can I advance the ball and who's open? A pass travels faster than your dribble up the floor. But he keeps his eyes up, and then the other skill right here is he has a left hand bounce pass from the top of the key. Most players, a lot of people would say this is a weak hand pass, but Trae Young is such a good player, he doesn't have a weak hand. He can make passes with his left or right hand. And guards, I mean, honestly, any player, bigs, guards, post, whoever, how the game is nowadays, you got to be able to pass with your left hand and your right hand. So Trae Young, eyes are up the whole possession, and he makes a bounce pass, an accurate one with what someone calls weak hand, but he's got no weak hand. He can pass with both hands. Important skill for guards. All right, so this clip is much of the same thing. It's a weak hand pass, so he's going to reject the screen. And reject the screen basically means instead of Trae Young going over John Collins, who's setting a screen here, instead of dribbling over that, Trae Young is going to fake towards the screen. He does this a lot. He does this a lot. Fake towards the screen and then cross over. Now, this is an unbelievable skill right here. He goes from crossover to left-handed pass, one-handed left-handed pass, all the way across the floor, and look where Kevin Huerter catches the ball. It's one thing to be able to get this pass off with your left hand or your, what might naturally be called your weak hand, and it's a whole other thing to deliver this pass right on the money. Kevin Huerter didn't have to reach outside the frame of his body over here. He didn't have to reach up towards the bleachers. Didn't have to reach towards right. It was right on the money. And from a passer's perspective, the more accurate your passes are going to be, the higher the shooting percentage is going to be for whoever is catching the pass. So if none other than the selfish reason of getting more assists, you're going to have a more chance of getting an assist with an accurate pass than if your pass is inaccurate. Because when your pass is inaccurate, it throws off the rhythm and the balance of the shooter. So those were two weak hand passes. Although, again, he doesn't really have a weak hand. Now, this one is very, very simple. This is a side ball screen on the side of the floor, and Trae Young's just going to make a very simple read. Cam Reddish is on the, call this the angle, the point where it goes from an arc to a straight line, the three-point line. Cam Reddish is going to relocate on the three-point line. Cam Reddish's defender is going to slide in, and the read here would be if this defender's chest is between you and the rim, or if this defender's chest is right in front of you as the guard, then that might be an automatic pass. As opposed to this defender could still be in help, but only their arm might be in your driving lane or their feet might be outside the lane, then Trae Young would probably make the layup. But because this defender makes a full commitment onto Trae Young, he kicks to the corner and makes the right read. Now, one other point here for the guards. When you're making this pass to the corner, you've got to release the ball early. So here's what I mean by this. When Trae Young releases this pass, he's still above, even though he's close to this defender, he's still above this defender. A lot of guards, what they do is they are late passers. So that would just look like if Trae Young took one more dribble and he got super deep into the paint, well, the deeper he gets into the paint, the more these defenders' arms are in the passing lanes. So instead of being a late passer, great passers, great guards, pass it ASAP, as soon as possible, as soon as their teammate is open. Don't be a late passer. Be a, I guess we'd call it a fast passer. This is so simple. but so many guards, college, high school, middle school, you name it, just don't make these kind of passes. It's so simple. It's a high ball screen. You've got a dive, so John Collins is diving, and then on the weak side, I think this is Teague. Teague is lifting. So you got dive and lift on this side of the floor, and then you just have somebody in the corner and in the post on the strong side. Cam Reddish's defender, he has 1 foot in the paint. Trae Young makes the unbelievably simple read to just pass to the corner. And notice the pass is pretty accurate. And Cam Reddish knocks down the 3. Again, a lot of guards, college, high school, middle school, just don't make this pass. I don't know why. Maybe they just, hopefully this film will help more guards make these kind of passes. I don't know why they don't, but it's just so simple. Just make the simple pass. Coaching college, not this past season, but the year before, our head coach would have to tell our players, if he's open, pass it. It sounds so simple, but our guards just didn't do it as much as they should have. Okay, so this is much of the same. This is actually fairly good defense by the corner defender. So this is a defensive tip right here. We'll start looking at this defender right here. This guy stunts. I've called it I've heard it called many other things, but basically a stunt. You're going to watch this defender. He's going to fake towards Trae Young and then recover towards the corner. So watch this defender right here. This is called a stunt. Fake to Trae Young and then goes out to the corner. Now the effort on this was not a great stunt. This defender didn't give as much effort as they could have. Should have had a hand up as well and then his right hand in the passing lane. So it wasn't great effort. But nonetheless, that's a stunt. A decent contest, not a great contest, but a decent contest. But again, Trae Young, he just makes a simple read. This defender slides in, so he kicks to the corner. And one other thing right here, Trae Young will oftentimes, he'll be able to drive by a defender, especially in the a high ball screen when John Collins usually is setting a ball screen up here. Trae Young will often go the opposite way and simply drive by the defense. But in this case, the defender stays in front of Trae Young, so Trae Young isn't able to beat his defender towards the rim. So his defender stays in front, and a help guy commits, maybe overcommits into the paint too much. Trae Young makes a simple read, kicks to the corner for a 3. And then from the shooter's perspective, that's a quick release. And shooters got to have quick releases. Okay, this is the last clip. And what I wanted to emphasize here is, even though Trae Young is the subject of this film study and we're focusing on a lot of guard concepts, basketball is a team game. So guards have to understand how post players work. Basketball in any sport, you play together. You play as one unit, and you've all got to understand your spacing, where you're at, timing, all that kind of stuff. It's not just like Trae Young or anybody else is just the only player out here doing their thing. You've got to work together. So how these players are working together, Trae Young drives, and the post player right here is behind the back line of the defense. So from DeAndre Ayton's perspective, because the offensive player is below DeAndre Ayton can't see this offensive player. So what happens is, this is called the dunker spot too. So this line right here, in this area right here, a lot of post players will play behind the backboard, play in the dunker spot, and then they'll play off of the guard. So when the guard drives in and this player's defender here steps up, they just slide in right behind them. They have their hands ready, and most levels it's just going to be a layup, not such a powerful dunk. But this player is going to go from the dunker spot, get behind the defense, step in, hands ready, finish at the rim. That wraps up this film session of Trae Young. Yes, I did change shirts since the beginning of this video, but either way, that wraps up this video. Thank you all for watching. If you want to stay tuned on other film sessions or videos that I do to help you get better as a basketball player, go ahead and hit subscribe, and that'll keep you updated and up to date on anything I make. Thank you all for watching, and take care.